I am riding aboard a rusty metal death trap. It creaks and groans as I journey onwards, the chassis straining under the pressure. But outside these walls is a world so inhospitable, it's a miracle that anything can live out there. And yet, things do live. I am riding a bus into the city, looking out at the rain-swamped English countryside, looking forward to seeing the Iron Lung movie. When I played Iron Lung 4 years ago, I couldn't have imagined it would have blown up the way that it did. Not just in the way that a short 1-hour horror game resonated with so many people and became popular with the streaming and Let's Play crowd, and even went on to inspire other games with its claustrophobic premise. But getting its own movie is an entirely new level. Granted, the movie is made by one of those that played it, Mark Fischbach, aka Markiplier, but that made this movie seem all the stranger. The Let's Play to movie pipeline isn't one that I thought existed. I don't think I've seen a video by Markiplier before. I know he plays games, and went to space. Good for him. It was cool that he did have Iron Lung's creator David Szymanski involved in the production though, so I had to check it out for myself at a late night screening. Hello everyone, it is 1 o'clock in the morning and I am back from seeing Iron Lung. I didn't know what to expect from this movie. I had no clue what it was going to end up being like, and I'm surprised and happy to say it's really fun. It's a good movie. I really enjoyed coming out to see it. I was wondering whether or not I would feel I would have to grade this movie on a curve. Like, is it good for a YouTuber movie? Would I feel happy if it was better than, I don't know, Laser Team? Is it good for a video game movie? Video game movies have been getting better, to the point they've reached the dizzying heights of no worse than anything else at the cinema. Well, usually. But I don't feel like I need to qualify or contextualize how I feel. I think Iron Lung is a good movie. It's fun and captivating. It felt true to the source material whilst also doing something different, so it didn't just feel like I was experiencing the same thing again, except this time I'm eating popcorn instead of pressing buttons. It has flaws, but ultimately I left the cinema satisfied. If you don't know the premise of Iron Lung, both the game and the movie have the same starting point. It is the far future, and the stars are blinking out. Humanity is clinging to survival, but things are bleak as colonies and people across the galaxy die off in apocalyptic numbers. Hope may come from the discovery of a mysterious ocean of blood on an alien moon, and a miniature submarine called the Iron Lung, driven by a convict, is being sent down. It is unclear if they're expected to come back, or if this is their death sentence. One flaw of this film might be that this premise is communicated very quickly. There is no text crawl to get you settled in like other sci-fi settings, but instead it's immediate and dramatic voiceover.
If there is still hope, it lies beyond the veil. Hope in this void is as illusionary as the starlight.
And when I say immediate, I mean it starts the second after the age rating title card is gone. There's no company logos before the film or anything. It starts straight away, which I don't think I've seen in another film before. Then we begin our descent, without leaving so much as a beat to breathe. It sets a tone for sure, but I do wonder how someone who is unfamiliar with the game would keep up. Anyway, Fischbach plays Simon, our convict pilot, and he has to photograph things inside the ocean of blood using the submarine. He is sealed shut inside, so that the camera is all that he can see of the deep red world around him. As I said earlier, it becomes very clear early on that while this is true to the game, it isn't a one-to-one adaptation. Though Simon is essentially the same protagonist, the simple fact he has a voice now, motivations, and history too, compared to the game's silent avatar, means that the experience is different. There is even a rebuke to the letter in the game that showed the player character resigned to their fate. Simon does not want to die. Simon wants to live. And for a film like this is the right call. We get invested in his well-being, and it keeps things tense when everything goes wrong. Simon is a human. He has baggage, including the crime that he was sentenced for. He feels guilt, is caught in the seesaw between having hope and feeling hopeless. His character arc is fairly straightforward, but it makes him sympathetic. I think Fishbach also plays him fairly well. Sometimes there were a few lines that felt off, but honestly that might be a scripting thing more than acting, like needlessly spelling things out in ways that feel clunky. When he needs to act, he sells it well, especially in the bigger moments. Not saying he deserves an Oscar, but I have watched big studio films which orbit worse acting. He's good. Also, my cinema sold out of its initial screening and had to put on 3 different screenings just to keep up with demand. So I was actually really worried that I was going to be in a cinema of screaming Markiplier fans. People who were just going to freak out whenever he appeared on screen, which, oh my god, he's all the way through the movie, so it'd just be non-stop screaming. But no one was screaming, no one did anything inappropriate. Even a moment in the movie where Markiplier takes his top off, everyone was very respectful of Markiplier's bare chest, so good job, Markiplier fans. This change in tone compared to the game permeates throughout the movie as well. Simon has more contact with the outside world this time. He still has moments where he's alone, plenty in fact, but times where he is able to get radio contact feel like they're meant to be breaths of air from being immersed in isolation. I thought I'd hate the idea of being alone less in this movie, but I think it's used quite intelligently. Different, but not unfaithful to what the game was originally doing. Just this time we have contrast to vary things up. You may have noticed I said the movie was fun earlier, which I guess you could say the game was, but it wouldn't be the first word I'd use to describe the double scoop of claustrophobia and thalassophobia. But the movie is fun. It knows how to mix things up and keep things fresh. It isn't just staring at photos being taken or numbers being changed for the whole movie. When it goes loud, it goes louder than the game did. It will still build creep and dread and have quiet time, and we will talk about that. But there is a lot more moments that felt action-focused, with Simon being bumped around the submersible like the Enterprise is under attack. It's exhilarating, and not expected. Frankly, if you told me someone was making an Iron Lung movie, I would have imagined it being a slow-paced film, maybe from Eastern Europe, starring a man who monologues throughout about being depressed and questioning his faith. I might not have minded such a movie if it came out, but what's here is good in its own way. There's more I'd like to talk about the story and what it does, but that might be spoiler talk. So let's talk about something else. The movie takes place entirely inside the Iron Lung, and the set is a shockingly faithful recreation of the in-game submarine. It's cramped, rusty, and looks horrible to be inside, exactly like it should. It reminded me of that Welcome to Raccoon City Resident Evil movie that lovingly recreated the RPD from RE2 make. Shame the rest of that movie wasn't faithful to the game. One difference I saw is the console no longer has these arrow buttons though, and instead levers to operate it, which feels more realistic and is more visually interesting than a guy slapping a table. Simon is also given a chair to sit on as well, which is kind of funny. You've seen Markiplier sit down at a desk and play Iron Lung, now watch him sit down at a desk and live it. Something that feels funny amidst these differences is the device that captures the pictures is entirely unchanged from the game. It's still a giant wall that has a brick-sized white button, and it's still on the back of the ship away from the controls. I figured it was designed like that for game design reasons and the low poly aesthetic. So it was a bit weird seeing it in real life, but I got over it pretty quickly. And it does still help make the submarine feel not just slapped together, but also lonely, with room for more people that's never filled. The music is also very good. It's composed by Andrew Hulshult, who's collaborated with Szymanski before, and composed for a good amount of the modern boomer shooter games. His score feels like the cinematic version of the droning ambient tracks that Szymanski made for the game. It is noticeably Hulshult though. Some of the tracks reminded me quite strongly of some of the atmospheric pieces from Dusk. It's very good stuff and it carries you through the movie well. More bombastic, but the movie on the whole reflects that. That said, there is an issue of clarity, and here we'll get into some of my criticisms. Sometimes it can be hard to make out what people are saying in the film, mostly those coming through the radio. The soundtrack or other effects can be mixed very high, so when someone is telling Simon what to do, and Simon is either obeying or not, I'm not always sure what he's doing or why. It's not so bad to make it confusing, as Simon's motivations are usually clear, but it happens often enough to be an annoyance. I'm also not sure if this was just my screening, but there was a high-pitched noise throughout a lot of the movie that grated on me in some of the quieter moments of the film. Again, I don't know if this was a fault with my cinema. It wasn't my ears, it was definitely coming from the speakers. I don't know if it was meant to represent the characters' ears ringing as they got knocked about, or all the pressure around the submarine, but if it is an intentional effect, I think it's laid on way too thick and for too long. It took me out of things. The movie is also very dark. Intentionally dark, yes, and the obstacle of fighting the darkness can be used to great effect. Other times though, it feels like the movie wants you to be looking at something, but the picture is too unclear to make it out properly. Some more focused shots to emphasize details amidst the darkness probably would have been good. But the biggest issue with the film is probably its length. And I figured it would be since I booked my ticket. Its runtime is just over 2 hours. The original game took me 59 minutes. I think this is the first game-to-movie adaptation that is longer than its source material. One with an actual narrative beyond Beat the Bad Man anyway. But 2 hours definitely feels too long here. There is a lot of quiet time in this movie, and to be honest, I quite like it. It's here we see Simon at his most vulnerable and his most human. This time is rarely one note as we see him go through so many different emotions, make mistakes in this awful situation, and try to work out what he needs to do next. Some horror movies feel they are allergic to moments like these, and them being here endeared me towards our lead. I think the movie has all the right beats in the right order. Fishbach demonstrates a keen eye for this project, knowing how to make a movie out of a short experience like Iron Lung. The problem is that it can feel each of these nice moments end up going on too long. We are meant to feel that we are trapped down here with Simon, so I understand not wanting to feel like we've hit the fast forward button, but certain actions are laborious, showing Simon stand up, walk away, sit down again, and that level of granularity can be nice, but there might be an overindulgence present here. Montages can feel they go on too long and can be a little confusing, and conversations can also stretch out so that when they do happen, they can begin to feel circular. Definitely in an intentional way to create frustration for Simon, but it can make it feel for the audience that we're treading water. Or Hema? Anyway. It all sounds like small things, but they end up adding up throughout the whole film. It makes the production feel quite loose and carefree, when the rest is very loving and careful, and it puts a bit of a dampener on the film as the effect stacks on you. I was wondering when the film was going to end at a certain point. Not bored per se, but wanting the roller coaster to get to the next drop. When it gets loud, it's quite exciting, and gets me invested again, so I can't fault those moments at least. Am I campaigning for more action in an Iron Lung movie? No, but I want to get to the action quicker. This still feels weird. None of these issues are deal breakers for me though, and I still had a very good time with the film. There is a bit more I want to talk about, but that will be spoilers for the movie, and the game as well, I guess. I won't go over everything, but if you think you've heard enough, you can skip to the conclusion here. So there's a few things I was surprised I didn't see in the film. Not exactly in a damning way that the film didn't include them, but I think it's worth mentioning regardless. Two of the highlights in the game for me were finding locations under the Blood Sea that appeared constructed. It was a great feeling where my understanding of where I was thrown into question, where I was no longer sure of what I was doing, and it gave me that cosmic horror dread of being very small in an uncaring universe. So its absence was something I felt with the film. The other thing was probably one of the more clever tricks that the game does, when suddenly your submarine feels like it's hit and you're no longer in the same location you were before. They don't pull that in this. At one point, Simon is thrown off course, but in a tangible way rather than anything supernatural. I can only guess this was done because representing it in a film would be more difficult. The coordinate display is your main focus in the game, and because you're physically manipulating it to progress, you're very aware of your current position at all times. In the film, it doesn't focus on the coordinates so much. The display is still there and called out, and it's how you know how Simon gets around, but the exact numbers matter much less for the audience. So conveying that sudden spatial shift might have been clumsy and awkward, static shots of numbers hoping those watching remember them. So I can understand why we didn't do this, at least. And again, I'm not holding it against the movie for not doing these. It has its own direction. It's just something I thought worth noting. The film is smart enough, though, to replace these moments with tricks of its own that suit the medium much better. The longer Simon is down below the ocean, the more stir-crazy and erratic he gets. And, as the oxygen goes down in the film, he also becomes delirious. We blur the line not just between reality and delusion, but of another force entirely as well, and I think that stuff is cool. It also lines up with Simon's character arc too. At several moments he seems to hallucinate that something is on the submarine with him, something monstrous and covered in blood and viscera. Simon wants to attack this creature at first, but can never see them for long enough to strike. But by the end, you might feel the creature was instead helping Simon, and a few reveals will probably tell you who they were. Simon reflects on what he's done, and believes in fighting not just for his own freedom, but also a brighter future for all of humanity, and it involves getting help from someone, rather than staying insular and selfish. The finale is where it feels the film is firing on all cylinders. I won't go over the ending exactly, but while I did like how Iron Lung executed its ending, I'm once again glad the film didn't just try to recreate that. It is similar, but once again, feels like a different spin, and Simon has more of a goal that he is fighting to achieve, compared to the game protagonist meekly accepting his fate. It is a bit cheesy, but I think it sticks the landing. Whereas the game ends on a bleak and hopeless future, the movie ends with a literal light shining through the darkness, promising a glimmer of hope for humanity. It feels appropriate after everything that happened throughout, and is probably why I left the cinema feeling so good. A satisfying ending can make up for a lot.
I like that when the movie ends, it crashes into David Szymanski's name as well. Straight away. That was, it felt like a very good homage to what the game did as well, where it crashes onto his name after you get eaten by a big fish. That was very cool. And I think that shows that Markiplier was very aware about being faithful to the original game with what he was doing.
Hard to believe that such a teddy bear of a guy made such nightmares. And that was Iron Lung, the movie. Overall, it's a really good time. The bar is still quite low, but I can say this is the best movie based on a game that I've seen at least. Not flawless, but demonstrates enough love, care, and enthusiasm that I found it hard not to be drawn into it. I recommend it. Markiplier can make a movie better than Christoph Gans. What a world. I look forward to see if he makes more. I also look forward to see if another YouTuber tries to make something out of Squirrel Stapler, or Butcher's Creek, or maybe Chop Goblins. I dare someone to make a Chop Goblins movie. I will be there day one. Thank you for watching this video. This was a weird one to make, both reflecting on Iron Lung, now it's on the big screen, and also production-wise. I did actually record 40 minutes of that sleepy vlog, but most of it is me barely coherent, so I decided to spare all of you the worst of that. Thank you very much to my supporters, helping me make the videos I want to make. Patrons get to ask questions in QA segments at the end of videos, which we'll get into right now. What's your favourite movie based on a video game? Iron Lung. But if I have to pick another, I haven't seen all of them. I hear the last Sonic one was good, and there's that werewolf movie too, but I haven't seen them. You might think I'm crazy, but Advent Children. I'm not saying it's good, but it didn't hurt me, and I do remember it. The only other runner-up I can think of is the Prince of Persia movie. That also wasn't painful, but I don't remember a single moment from it. This is where we're still at with video game movies. If forced to choose between being iron-lunged or proximated, which would you pick? Now that's a hard one. Iron lung would be a quick death compared to what fate awaits me in the underwater lab, but proximate does have the hole. It's high risk, but I would go for that hole. Is there a movie you would like to see spun off into a video game? Home Alone. Seriously. I think there's a good idea in a kid setting up traps and defenses against a foe. It could be a fun asymmetrical multiplayer title. Which other YouTube creators do you think would be able to act well on the big screen? Well, Jacksepticeye was in this, so maybe he'll appear again. I liked his voice work in Dispatch, same with Moist Critical. Anyway, taking a left field pick and saying I want to see Kyle Bossman in a comedy. If you don't know him, he's former Game Trailers and Easy Allies, does production stuff for the Game Awards and Summer Games Fest, but his jokes and delivery have always been something I admire. With a good character, Bossman could shine. I don't know if he'd hate that though. And that's everything. I've reviewed games, a book, and now a movie. Who knows where we'll go next? Albums? West End plays? Advertisements? Well, probably video games for now. But one of those might be fun. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and I'll see you next time.